Welcome everyone to the Pitch Development Workshop. My name is Chris Moultrup with the Mid-Michigan Innovation Center. I'd like to thank our host, ThumbWorks, for having us here today. And by the end of this program, you will have a pitch, and again, you all will be pitching by the end of our session here today. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is a little quote from Albert Einstein. If you cannot explain it simply, you do not understand it well enough. That's a very key note to keep in the back of your head when developing your pitch. A lot of times as entrepreneurs and inventors, we get into developing or talking about the technical aspects and getting in deep into the details of our pitch or our technology rather than just explaining the business opportunity simply. Remember, that's what we're doing, is explaining a business opportunity, not pitching a product. So there's multiple elements to the pitch, and I wish this was shrunken down because obviously you can't see any of it. But that's all right, we'll make do. You have it in front of you there. So the first part of every pitch is your team. Team is very important because you're not betting on the horse, you're betting on the jockey when you're looking for investors. So is the team able and talented with the experience to actually move the business forward and create a successful business opportunity? Second thing we'll talk about is the customer pain. What problem are you solving? You can't just put something into the market without having a reason for people to buy it. There's got to be a motivation. And that brings us to the next part. What's your solution to that problem? Your revenue and business model is one of the most important factors in your pitch because it shows how you're going to make money and how you're going to pay back an investor or pay a supplier or partner. Your go-to-market strategy. So you've got a great product. How are you going to get it to market? How are you going to get it to the customer so they can actually purchase it, make them aware of your new agritourism project or your plant growth invention? What's your competition? Everything has competition. There is no such thing as no competition. If any of you say that in a pitch today, we will start over and you will have to figure out who your competition is because there is always, always competition. What the number one source of competition? Does anybody know it?
Nothing.
Exactly. Do nothing. Every consumer has the opportunity to absolutely do nothing, and that is competition. So what is your unique, unfair competitive advantage? How are you going to beat the competition, and how are you going to explain that to your customer? And then the ask. Every pitch needs to include something where you say, this is what I'm looking for. Whether it's you're looking for an investment, so a $100,000 investment for 20% of my company, or if you're looking for partners, you're looking for a marketing team to help move you to market, or a supplier. Everything has to have an ask. So we'll start with the team. You want to talk about who are your existing partners or your existing employees, if you have any, and why are they the right people to start with? What positions are you looking to fill in the near future? There's always holes. One person can't do it all, and you've got to be able to show that you're forward-looking, saying, I know I'm going to need a marketing vice president or a sales team or an operations team. Also, who are your advisors? Every entrepreneur should have some advisors, whether they're your accountant, your attorney, an experienced entrepreneur that you know, someone that's advising you along in the process. If you have any board members, at this early stage, many of us don't have a board of directors per se, but you want to be looking at that, and if you do have one, explain who they are and why they add value. Some key consultants. If there's anyone that's consulting with you to help move you forward, you want to talk about why their skill sets are great to complement you and help move your business forward. And then you want to communicate through all of this your experience and your expertise. So why are you the expert that's going to make this successful? Why do you have the experience that's going to help ensure the success? There's always risk, but one thing we're trying to do with explaining the team is show that we can mitigate the risk by having broad experience around us. So, what problem are you solving? Is it that plants don't grow big enough? Is it that there's no options for agritourism? Is it that ATVs kill hundreds of people every year? What is the problem you are solving? And why is it important to your customer? And this is a key element to really think about and try and figure out how to explain. Is it really important? And why is it important? Some things seem like there's motivation there, but if it's not on the top list of important to that customer, then they're not really going to pay attention to it. So we want to make sure that one, there's a pain, but also people recognize that there's a pain. And then what's your solution? Again, going back to the first quote, you want to explain it in a concise, simply understood manner that gets somebody to say, I get it, I see the problem, I see your solution, tell me more. Remember, that's what we're doing with the 2-minute pitch, is just trying to get to that next conversation. Nobody's going to say, yes, I want to buy your product, or yes, I want to invest in your company over 2 minutes. If they do, you probably don't want them as an investor, because you want somebody that's going to do a little bit more due diligence than that. So your revenue and business model. This is something that comes as a challenge to a lot of inventors especially, which is why inventors tend to either transform into an entrepreneur or find an entrepreneur as a partner to help move them along. You've got to be able to make money. There is no such thing as a, if we build it, they will come strategy. Those don't happen. And you've got to show that you've thought about that and you've got a plan to take it to market and get revenue and create value in the supply chain and distribution chain. So within that is producing your product and doing it profitably. The easy answer is to always do a cost plus pricing model, which is it cost me $10, I want to make $5, so I'll sell it for $15. That doesn't work in most cases. In some cases it does, but in most it doesn't. There's got to be a value pricing, basically, strategy on that. So how do you show that the customer values this at $40? It doesn't matter what it costs you to make, as long as it's under $40. And that's where you've really got to get to the market, talk to them, and figure out what they're willing to pay. If you've got a great solution to a plant problem, and you want to sell it for $30, but the customer's only willing to pay $15, but you have to pay $20 to make it, then it doesn't really work for you. You don't want to go into business in a negative business model. So you find the value point, figure out how much you can pay for it, and that helps start the basis of your revenue model. So how will you scale production and sales? So as sales grow, we need to obviously make more product. If you're making them in your garage as a one-off, you can't very well fill a 1,000-piece order in a timely manner. So there's got to be some sort of plan to show that we can start here, but the end game is really to be here when we're doing 10,000 units a month or 100,000 units a month or whatever it is. That there's some sort of plan in your head to scale this, get cost efficiencies through that scale, so as you scale, your cost per piece should go down based on the efficiencies built in. But also, how do you scale sales? So how are you going to go from selling one-offs to selling 15 or 100 or 1,000 at a time? You've got to always show that you're looking at the big picture. So your go-to-market strategy. Going to market is a scary thing for a lot of inventors because it's really easy to sit in your garage and just keep inventing because that's fun. And it's, you know, product development is a fun thing. When you think that you're making something people will want to buy and you're just continually developing it. But if you continue to develop it and never talk to the customer, then you have no idea if they really want to buy it. You can make the coolest thing and think it's the coolest thing in the world. If nobody else buys it, then it's really not worth your time. And you should move to something that's a little bit more profitable for you. So one of the quotes we use around the Innovation Center is, more companies fail from a lack of customers than from a lack of product development. It's a simple fact. You can fail all the time without customers, but you can still have customers even though you're not doing product development. You should continue to do product development, But you want to get to what we call a minimum viable product. What is the minimum state that someone will pay you profitably for your product? What barriers will your company face in entering your target market, and how will you overcome them? There's always barriers, whether it's trying to get into Home Depot or Lowe's, or trying to get into the large ATV manufacturers and work out a licensing agreement. There's always some sort of barrier to market, and identifying those and showing how you're going to overcome them is key to your pitch. Now, I know you're thinking in your heads right now, this is a lot to fit into 2 minutes, and it is, but we're giving you the whole piece so that we can start with a big pitch that eventually works itself down into something that's simple, communicatable, and understandable by an investor, a partner, or just somebody on the street. They call it an elevator pitch because you start on the first floor and you got to the 10th floor to get them to understand what you're doing and say, I want another meeting, which is usually less than 2 minutes. So you need to convince your audience that you know your market and you know how to penetrate it. If you've got 30 years experience owning gas stations and now you're going to start selling ATV parts, there's a bit of a difference there. You need to show them that you understand your market, you know how your market works, you know the ins and outs, you know how to penetrate it, and you know how to do it profitably and scale it appropriately. So competition, again, there is no such thing as no competition. Everyone has competition. Gene, you said it earlier perfectly that nothing is everyone's competition. Everyone can choose to do nothing. To that same point, if you've got a plant product and it helps make plants grow better, then Miracle-Gro is a competition. It may not be the same thing, but it is a competition because they help make plants grow faster.
Buy that instead of buying this.
That's what?
They'd buy Miracle-Gro instead of buying this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Miracle-Gro's good enough. I don't need that.
Yep. Yep. So one thing that we kind of overlook sometimes is successful competitors can help validate your business. So you mentioned earlier someone else came out with a similar product.
I've been told about it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I've been told they're growing strawberries faster than any place in the world in Mount Pleasant.
Okay. All right. Well, we can look into that. But their success, if they've got sales and they're selling their products, that validates that there's a market, there's a need for your product.
I've been told they call it aeroponics.
Okay. Well,
is what they call it.
Yeah, we can look into that.
When I went to do my patent, I was going to call it aeroponics. But I had a book on how to do patents, and they say don't call it what it does.
Okay.
So I didn't call it aeroponics. I call it Midas Grow instead.
Okay. Well, them being successful can help you. For you, if there's another farm that's doing agritourism, then that proves that there's a market and there's a need and people are craving to get out to the farm. Gene, I don't know if you found anything that's similar to yours, but the same thing. If there's competition, it's always good to mention it because it doesn't mean that they're taking the entire market. It means that they're starting a market and you can carve off pieces and take it from them and explain why you can do that. Which is the next point. What is your unfair competitive advantage? How are you going to overcome the competition? So we've shown that there's competition. There's validation that people are craving what you want. How are you going to beat them? And it can't, it's not just on price, it's not just on benefits, it's got to be a combination, a nice little package that is, this is my unfair competitive advantage and this is why people can't live without my product. So that brings us to the competitive advantage. So what makes it unfair for you? Is it exclusive supply? Intellectual property? Do you have a patent on your product that no one else can get around? Is it solid? Are you going to be first to market? The one thing we, as inventors and entrepreneurs, sometimes overlook is the first to market strategy is really one of the best ways to protect against competition. Intellectual property is great, but patents are only as useful as you can afford to protect them. And if you can't protect them, then they're worthless. And it's expensive to protect them. So If you're first to market, if you're out there as the one that everybody looks at and says, that is the best farm because they were the first one I ever saw, then you've got them, and they're going to tell everybody.
It's a lot like you claimed, and when I claimed on my patent, it's gonna be hard for them to get around it.
If you can defend it.
Anybody builds it any way they can build one, any way they want to. I still got them with the way I put my patent in.
If you can defend it. Unless you've got a treasure chest of a couple $1 million in your back pocket, they can get around it. A patent is only worth what you can afford to prosecute. Strategic partners are also a competitive advantage. If you've got a partner that is locked in with you and maybe they're closer to the market, and you can partner with them, like a distributor that already distributes to Home Depot and Lowe's and the stores that you may or may not want to be in. If you can align with them, then you're already 10 steps closer than the competition.
I got that at Lowe's.
Good.
I haven't contacted them yet.
So the last piece of your pitch is the ask. We talked about you have to ask for something. You always have to ask for something. If you don't ask for something, the person's going to walk away saying, well, that was neat, but what do they need me for? So it can be financial, it can be expert advice, just connections in general. Could be for customers. Anything that you need is an ask, but you have to ask for it for people to know you need it. It's the key part. A lot of times we, in doing a 2-minute pitch, we see the timer in front of us and we're thinking, oh, I gotta get my product description out. And then you never get to an ask and people are sitting there saying, well, that was interesting, but I have no idea what they want. So when you see that light, which in your pitch you'll see a timer in front of you, when you see that light go to yellow, that means get to your ask. It doesn't matter where you're at in your pitch, you get to your ask. And that's why we don't memorize pitches. You internalize a pitch. This is nothing more than you telling a story. And that's really what you've got to look at it as. You're telling a story to someone who's interested in hearing it. And we're all very much involved with our businesses. We're all involved in our products, and we love them dearly. But you've got to step back a little bit and just be able to tell the story. Just a quick, this is what we're doing, and this is why you need to be involved, and this is what I need from you. And when you internalize, you'll be able to do that. So must-haves for your pitch. There are 4 things that every pitch must include. You must have a hook. If you don't grab attention in the first 15 to 30 seconds, really 15 seconds, you're not going to have their attention for the entire time. Even though it's only 2 minutes, the human brain wanders. So you have to have a hook. You've got to have that powerful piece, like in yours, with the 300,000 kids die every year from ATV flipovers. I know it's a high number, but it's somewhere. It's a number. That's a powerful statement. That gets people to say, I need to hear what this is, what he's talking about, because I had no idea that that many people died. Your unique selling proposition. What's unique about your product, and how are you going to sell it? Your passion. Getting up in front of a room of people can be hard, but you've got to let your passion come through. You can't be the guy that sits there, or the girl that sits there with their arms on their side, just kind of looking at the floor and reading a script and thank you, I hope you enjoyed my pitch. That doesn't work. Your passion has to come through, because that's what these investors or these customers or these suppliers are looking for. They're looking for a passionate entrepreneur that hooks them in with a unique selling proposition and then asks them for something. The ask is critical. So these 4 items, if you don't have them, you don't have a pitch. You're just talking, wasting air, and the other person's going to walk away wondering why you even came up to them in the first place. So these 4 are must-haves. So why 2 minutes? One of the biggest questions we always get on Boost. It's 2 minutes because if you can't explain it in 1 minute, you're not going to do it in 2. And if you can't do it in 2, 3 minutes, they've already walked away. 2 minutes is simply to get another conversation. It's to get them to say, you interested me, I want to talk more, here's my business card, call me. To that point, when someone hands you a business card and says, call me, call them. It's a simple point, but a lot of times we get stacks of business cards and we're pumped up after we left a trade show or a networking event, and so excited, and then we get back to the house and everything goes on for the night, and then the next day forget about it and never call anyone. You have to call the people that ask you to call them. Send them an email, follow up with them, be persistent. Many a times these people are very busy. Calling once and then saying, oh, they never called back, they hate me, the world is ending. It's just, that's giving up. You have to be persistent. If you want a meeting, get that meeting, especially if they invited you to it. And that's where we're at. Get the next meeting. So within that, you're showing your passion. You're following up shows your passion. I mean, I've had people, and I'm guilty of this, I've not responded for a month and a half because we get busy doing our normal stuff. But then they've called me 6 times and I finally say, okay, I just gotta get time for this guy or gal. And then it's something really neat and it's something that we can move forward with. Everybody's guilty of that. And if you're not the persistent one because you are the one making the ask, then it's your fault for not following up properly. So don't be this guy, standing in the elevator all wound up and nervous and shaking and looking at the ground and using notes and just kind of monotone voice and nobody really cares about me and that kind of stuff. Just don't do that. This is what you want. How exciting, please tell me more. You want them screaming that from the elevator, because this is an elevator pitch, right? You want them screaming that. Obviously not, they're not going to scream it, but they're going to be excited. And you're going to get them excited because you're going to be passionate, you're going to have a hook, you're going to have a unique selling proposition, you're going to have an ask, and you're going to enjoy your pitch and your time. It's really a lot of fun to get up in front of people and pitch your product because you're sharing something about you. You're giving it's scary because you're putting your baby out there and somebody might say it's ugly. But if it's still beautiful to you, then somebody else in the world might like it. So that wasn't the right person. Keep trying.